In the part of betrayal trauma, the books, the workbooks, all that ideas, I continually stress that each woman's journey is unique to her and her alone. Okay? This is definitely true around triggers. Some women have almost no triggers during their recovery. And I know for you that are triggered all the time, you can barely believe that. Others are triggered constantly and for long periods of times on various kinds of issues. And what he did as far as the behavior is not a variable. It might be porn, it might be masturbation, it might be sex addiction, it might be prostitutes, it might be affairs. That is not a variable in how triggered you're going to be. So regardless of the events that have happened to you, let yourself be you. You are being triggered. It doesn't matter how often. You can't compare that you're healthier because you have 3 less than the lady sitting next to you in group. Okay? It's not a measure of health. Okay? So be careful of that. Each woman brings a set of unique variables to her trauma, and they're all on a continuum. Okay? So I'm going to walk through just a handful of these variables, and there's a lot more. But here's one variable: how much they believe knowledge or facts will heal her. A woman who is totally convinced if she has every fact she'll be healed, that's a variable to triggers, because she's going to search out everything. There's no truth to that. Facts don't heal the heart. Okay? I've had women who've had micro detailed things and they seem to be at a disadvantage to heal, actually. Okay? Accepting his behavior is insane. It's not fact-based. It's emotionally based. It's object relationship based. It has nothing to do with facts, and facts are not your medicine. Okay? But if you really believe in that, that's a variable. Believing understanding is the cure. Actually accepting you can't understand insane behavior is probably going to get you closer to the cure than believing you can understand, because to understand, you'd have to be insane. Now, I'm a recovering addict. I've been a partner of an addict, okay? And I've seen thousands, literally probably 4,000 to 5,000 people and couples over 30 years. It doesn't make sense why they do this. The women are beautiful and they're smart and they're good-hearted and they're spiritual and they're some sexual partners and all this stuff. It's not about you. It's not about that. And it's not about understanding some one thing about his childhood or his family that's going to make it all go away or be better. Okay? Number 3. A woman that has a lot of time to think about his behavior versus little time spent on his behavior. So the woman who preoccupies and soaks and has the time to dedicate hours, that's a variable, okay? Now, I'm not saying any of these variables are good or bad, I'm just saying that they are, okay? Number 4, a woman who struggles with OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, versus someone who has no obsessive compulsive issues is going to be different in how they manage triggers. It's going to be different, okay? Again, it doesn't matter where you are on that continuum, just knowing where you are can be a factor, okay? Number 5, previously healed trauma could make you actually tougher in the current trauma, versus unhealed trauma may make you more vulnerable in this trauma because you have layers of trauma to heal. And that is a variable, and that may impact your triggers because it might open you up to a whole bunch of other triggers because of dealing with sexual abuse or rapes or traumas or abortions or things that you have been afraid of to talk about, or your own secrets. Okay, and so those are all variables on how you manage triggers. Okay. Number 6, your general disposition towards being someone who likes to grow and likes to learn and likes to experience new things, or if you are a person who likes to stay the same and keep things the same and kind of stay in this lane, that's a variable. Not good or bad, but it's a variable in how you will walk through triggers. Self-esteem is a variable. This can contribute to how resilient you are when you're triggered. It also can be a way that you interpret triggers, okay? So having lower self-esteem can be a huge impact. Having high self-esteem can be an impact. But either way, you're going to be impacted. It doesn't matter how great your self-esteem is. When you're in a car wreck, you're in a car wreck, okay? Grief, the bargaining can exacerbate a trigger. going to self-blame, if I would have done this or that, okay? That can be a trigger. So grief itself is a process that may exacerbate a trigger, okay? Financial dependency versus independency. Finances is a big factor in how a woman can navigate healing and can navigate her life and how she makes decisions and choices. So that's a factor, and just being honest about that with yourself can be helpful. The age of your children, the stage of life you're in. A woman with 3 small babies is going to be thinking different than women with 30 to 40-year-old children. Where you are in that track of raising your family is a big variable in how you deal with recovery, how you deal with life, how you see life, and triggers that may be there, and how you actually navigate that. Your general trust or mistrust of others. We live in a continuum of trust, mistrust in every relationship. But generally, if you mistrust, you're going to probably have more triggers than someone who trusts that not all women are bad and not all men are bad. And some are really good and you can trust them with your whole heart. Now, your husband is not the example of that if you're watching this DVD. And learning how to trust him is differently than your generalized trust. But that's a factor, okay? Another factor is your general respect of people. Seeing them as valuable, or seeing them as souls, seeing them of someone you honor, or that you're pretty much disrespectful, devalue, critical, and always putting people down and putting them in boxes and not in relationships, and you have no real friends, okay? Where you are on that continuum is a variable in dealing with triggers. Good self-care versus poor self-care. What you do to take care of yourself spiritually, physically, socially, financially, emotionally. How you take care of you is a real factor. How much self-worth you have by looking at your behaviors, how much abandonment of yourself you have by looking at your self-care, okay? That's a variable. Every woman comes unique to her trauma. Every woman processes her trauma quite differently. Every woman heals from her trauma quite differently. Therefore, every woman will have a process in the triggers differently. Now, here you do well not to compare yourself again. I'm going to say that probably several more times. Don't compare yourself to other ladies in your phone group. Don't compare yourself to other ladies who've gone through this, or even friends that have gone through this, because how you're going to go through this is going to be unique to you.